Now, what do you have here, Roger? It looks like an American GI's helmet.
That's exactly what it is, an absolute genuine World War II American paratrooper's helmet. It belonged to an American called Gilbert Morton. He was in the headquarters company, 506 Parachute Infantry Regiment. He was stationed about 3 miles from here, a place called Ramsbury. And this was the tin hat he was wearing on D-Day. Now, it came into my possession when I was about 13 years old. And I had started to get interested in the military history of this area.
Of course.
I was talking to my father, and he said, I think there's an old tin hat in your aunt's garden. This was in Ramsbury. So we had to go down there immediately, obviously. I remember it very clearly. It was a Saturday morning. It was pouring with rain. And this was in the garden. It was upside down like this, with some soil in the bottom of it, and sort of rather a pathetic looking plant or weed growing out of it. I was a bit disappointed, to say the least. I was expecting something far more pristine. Anyway, my aunt gave it to me. I put it in my father's shed, let it dry out, and gradually removed the surface rust. And markings started to appear. There's a marking on the side, another one on the back, and another one on this side. Now, at the time, remember, I was only 13 or 14, no idea what these represented. And it was only about 5 years later I decided to do some proper serious research. Fortunately, my aunt was still alive. Went back and saw her, and she said the helmet belonged to a Gilbert Morton who was billeted with her during the war.
Okay.
So she knew his name.
Yep.
And from that I was able to contact the 101st Airborne Division Association, who said, oh, he's still alive. I wrote to him. He sent back a letter explaining all about why the helmet was in my aunt's garden and why, intriguingly, it had this large dent in the side of it.
So you can see it's got a very significant dent. Now, do we know where that's come from?
We do. Yep.
Tell me.
Gilbert wrote back, and I specifically asked him about the dent.
Yep.
This was the helmet he jumped with when he jumped into Normandy. They landed a short distance from a village called Saint-Côme-de-Mont, which is some distance from their objective. So they had to make their way to the objective. They came to a crossroads. As they approached the crossroads, a German shouted halt, and I think Gilbert fired and turned and started to run off, and then another German fired, and that bullet hit the helmet. And it said it gave him a bit of a headache.
I can imagine.
But it saved his life.
So it must have just glanced off the helmet.
Yes.
Because a real bullet, if it had gone directly...
Oh, that would have been the end.
That would have been the end. So he's just got very lucky there, and he's still kept it. And you can see the markings here.
Yep.
You can see there's still the spade.
That's right. Well, again, I didn't know what these were.
Yep.
But research showed that the 506 there, recognition flash was a spade, and there you can see a spade on both sides.
Yep.
He was a sergeant, so he had an NCO's rank bar on the back.
Yep.
Officers wore vertical bars, and also there's a little dot here. This represents the battalion. He was in 3rd Battalion.
And you can still see some of the green. If you can see that, just some of the original colour is still there, isn't it?
Still there. And of course, after he survived the war, but he went after D-Day. They came back to regroup here in the UK, and he was sent back to my aunt's house and was quartered there again for about another 6 weeks. Brought the helmet with him, stuck it on a post in her garden, and that's where it stayed until I came along one very wet Saturday morning about 1968.
Wow, what an incredible story. Thank you for bringing this object to us, Roger. Amazing.